The age-old dilemma: what if you're both a car guy and a boat guy and you can't decide what to do? Well, you think a little outside the box and you come up with a genius plan like this. Welcome back everybody to another episode of If It Floats, I Boats, and today's kind of a special one as we're unveiling the Boatswagen. No, this isn't that Volkswagen van you may have seen images of online where this company's coming out here recently, gonna try and take some classic cars and turn them into boats. This is the original Boatswagen now. They beat them to the punch, and this is from the boys over at Red State Connection. One of the most unique parts of this vessel is the car by itself alone is a pretty unique vehicle and was a one-off custom already. It was a Volkswagen Polo in an original life. In fact, it was actually two Volkswagen Polos that have been welded together to create this unique surfer-style pickup truck. The car was originally purchased a few years ago by the boys at Red State Connection to be used in a one-man car show they were putting on, and after the car show, the truck was taken back to their farm where it wound up sitting in a field for the next 2 years. Eventually, the boys came back around to it and decided they wanted to do something fun with the vehicle, but after 2 years of sitting, it wound up being quite the build, and the boys did make a detailed video about the build process of this vessel. I'll go ahead and link that in the description below. It is absolutely worth the watch, and it goes through the whole process. This car sat in their yard for over 2 years, so at the time of deciding to do this, it was actually not even running anymore. They took it back to a running vehicle and did the full-on conversion to make this thing the floating vessel we see here. Some of the major parts of the conversion to turn this thing into more of a boat, or a Boatswagen as they called it, were going ahead and filling all the open voids in the car with foam, which helps add the buoyancy needed to turn this into a floating object instead of a sinking car. Then they went ahead and did some conversions in the bed of this truck as well, adding another steering wheel, all the cables and everything needed to go ahead and mount an outboard motor on the back. Their outboard of choice was a classic Evinrude 25. They also added seating in the bed of this surf wagon to kind of give it more of that open air feel where you can have more of the entertainment factors that are included in a vessel. And of course you need a way to get from the cab of this into the bed of this when you're out on the water, so they left the tailgate where people can actually come from the driver and passenger seat enjoying the fun out in the open air on the water. In the end, you come up with a vehicle that is fully functioning as a driving car, yet still has the fun factor of being a boat and being able to get out on the water. This really does open up a lot of options for people if you were to have a vehicle like this. I mean, picture this one. It's a Wednesday, you're getting off of work and you'd like to go out on the water, but what's going to hold you back? That whole thought process of everything that goes into trying to get the boat out onto the water. You're going to have to go pick the boat up, you're going to have to load it on your tow vehicle, tow it down to the lake, launch it, make sure you have everything, and by the time you do that, it's going to be pretty late in the day. Now, if you have one of these, you leave work and heck, you just drive to the nearest launch ramp and go ahead and drop her in. The boys at Red State Connection actually did this modification to feature this vehicle over at the Henley Boat Festival, but this isn't the first time this vehicle's been featured. In fact, this vehicle actually has a little bit of a famous history. The base vehicle the boys from Red State used to create this vessel was actually created on a 2007 television series called Top Shop, where a famous designer and a famous mechanic would come together to create some wild and crazy vehicles. Originally, they were going to take the two Volkswagen Polos that they welded together and create a swan car, but in the end, once they started coming up with the design, decided to go ahead and go with this more beach-style wagon, and was actually unveiled and featured at the 2007 Boardmasters Surfing Festival. After its unveiling at the event though, the car kind of fell off the radar, and the actual history of the vehicle following the Boardmaster event is very vague and relatively unknown. The only thing we do know for sure is the car showed up for sale at a yard in Blackpool a few years later. The boys said it was painted a different color, and the guys from Red State Connection decided to pick it up as they thought it was a cool, unique vehicle. And of course, it was, and now they've made it even cooler and more unique. And now some of the real questions that'll need to be answered. Do we still register this as a car, or does it have to be registered as a boat? And how do you insure something like this as well? But I'm sure the boys are going to get it all figured out. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of If It Floats, I Boats. Once again, check the description below for the link to the full build video on this car. And a special thanks to Charlie Burns, their welder, for sending me these images of the vessel out on the water. If you ever see anything crazy or any kind of crazy vessel out on your waterways, be sure to hit me up on Facebook or Instagram and let me know, and you might see your story over here. And if you haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button. If not, we're coming to steal your drain plug.